God vibes only. God vibes only. God vibes only.
That in which you are seeking to find outside of yourself is already
God vibes
within
only.
you, as above, so below.
You are now tuned in to the Cosmic Convos podcast, your number one source for accurate, relevant, and thought-provoking astrological conversations in the podcast nation. The place where stars and minds align.
Peace. You're now tuned into the Cosmic Convos podcast. I'm your humble host at Root, and got my good brother here, Brother Ra. How you doing?
Brother, taking it a day at a time. How about yourself, King?
Hey, man, like I said, man, trying to get better every day, trying to take it to the next level, and, trying to get like you, my brother.
Brother, it's left hand and the right hand thing. That's what we're doing here.
Indeed, indeed. But before I get too far, I want to remind you all, make sure you like and subscribe to this channel, and make sure you hit that notification bell or whatnot, and share this with your people, man. Let everybody know what we got going on over here or whatnot. And as usual, this episode is brought to you by Push It Forward Media Group, Calipusha Astrology, and our good people over there on Patreon. Big up to y'all. Or whatnot. I'm trying to do my little camera switch over. Let me move to the side real quick. Or whatnot. Big up to y'all or whatnot. If you want to find us on Instagram, you can find us at Cosmic Convo. That's CosmicConvo on Instagram. And from there, you can get to all the different links. You can get to my personal Instagram. You can get to the website, everything like that. Brother Ra, how can the people get a hold of you?
Via IG or Facebook, it's Shekhem Ra, or you can hit me up on my email at caliprushaastrology@gmail.com.
Indeed. Big up to that. Or whatnot. So here we are. We at episode 13 of season 5. Or whatnot. We meant to, drop this episode on Wednesday, but life happens. We have had a lot of different things going on, but we didn't want to leave y'all hanging. So here we are on a Saturday or whatnot, man, during the daylight. This is a good look. I'm pretty sure some people might, send some hints about that. Rob, what you think about doing considering the Saturday early day slot for you, for your person dropping these episodes? What you think?
Hey, we get in where we can fit in. You know what I mean? It's nice. It's a nice break from the monotony. You know what I mean?
Right.
You got to be flexible. Can't be stuck in, conditioned behavior patterns. So, I'm with it. I'm all for it. Nice Saturday where people might have the time to, roll with it in the car or, sit back and enjoy while they might be multitasking, or even just, be able to enjoy it full-heartedly instead of us being, in the evenings when a lot of people might even be ready to go to bed. So it's a nice change, definitely.
Indeed. I mean, it even looks brighter. I mean, like, because I was joking on not the last episode, but the episode before the last or whatnot. We was we was super late into the night, and for you all that don't know, we are in two time zone difference or whatnot. Dropping these and stuff like that. So it's much later to me than what it is for Ross. So sometimes, man, I be over here like about to or whatnot.
Brother, be like, yeah.
And stuff like that. But it's all good. We'll talk offline and see what we can do or whatnot. But it is a good little switch up, you know what I'm saying, from what we've been doing or whatnot. So big up to that. Indeed. I want to send a special shout out to everybody who's watching this live or whatnot. Big up to y'all. Make sure you drop your comments in here. Make sure you subscribe if you hadn't subscribed yet. And subscribe to all the channels that you see in the content family, including the Calipurusha Astrology channel that my brother here My brother Ra got over here and stuff like that. He got some things coming up, so make sure you subscribe there as well or whatnot. But yeah, what do what's your feedback on the last episode we just dropped, episode
That
12?
was
What you been
pretty.
getting?
That was a pretty good episode, man. I know it was lengthy. You know, it was nice to have a brother, one of my students here. Nice change up. You know,
Yeah,
something
big up to
different.
him. Yeah, shout
Yeah,
out to him for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. He definitely was all into it. A lot of good knowledge drop, a lot of tech. It's a nice way to really hone in on the technique of applying Varga charts as far as astrology is concerned. So it was definitely, I thought, a very good episode, and we covered a lot of ground, and we used some great examples. So I got a lot of positive feedback for it, definitely.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Yeah, the D9. I know when I was first picking up Jotish and stuff like that. I was a little confused about the role of the D9 chart. I knew it was, an important, divisional chart, but I wasn't quite sure what it meant, and took me a while to kind of just look at my chart and look at a bunch of other charts to kind of start putting it together and seeing that it wasn't quite what it's been, the way that's referred to in the classics. I guess it could be. It just depends. You have to adjust your mind to that time period when those things came about, and really understand what they really were saying.
hmm Yeah, and because we live in, like I said, a society where you know we are out of touch with what
Right.
is intended. I would even say, by the universe. Then we have to kind of augment or apply it from the perspective of where we currently are standing. And so, you know, it is a relationship chart, and we're going to talk more about that here in the next, in this season. We're not going to just leave it out there, right? Just kind of floundering and saying, well, how come they're saying this? We'll show you how to apply it, but it's not applied in the general consensus of a relationship or a mate, and that's just because um, we're not living in a society that is disciplined or has enough fortitude enough around really having long-term committed unions. If you ever wonder, how do you see so many different marriages in a chart, and you can see various ones, but people have become serial monogamists. you know they'll just
Hmm.
go out and another person, cast them into the wind, and you know hope for the best, right? The grass is greener syndrome, as they say.
Right.
um, that's not the way this chart is designed. That's not the way the supreme being has it in mind. It happens because we can see it happening. But the old saying is, everywhere you go, what? There you are, right?
Right.
So you kind of trade one partner for the next, and you still get some issues or some problems. And
Hmm.
so it's just wisest to really say, what are these things that I'm dealing with? And of course, there's always conditions where it's warranted to exit the connection. It's abuse, high levels of infidelity, various things that can take place that would really cause you to say, you know what, it's time. But there are times, and more often than not, when you should endure, when you should fight through, when you should carry the torch, when you should take one on the chin, as they say, right? When you should, try to move through any difficulties that happen so that you can learn kind of, what this is all about as far as spiritual development is concerned. And that's just not the modality of people today. Most people don't get married for spiritual development. And that's the real bottom line. People are not marrying to become better beings. They're marrying for other reasons. And if you're looking at the D9 chart, it is a chart that is about your development and spiritual growth.
Right.
So,
So that's the key difference right there, is that it's a chart for spiritual relationships,
yes, yes,
not
exactly.
not just relationships in general. Spiritual, a relationship in the context of spiritual development.
That's right. And so if you're not looking at marriage from a spiritual development the perspective, I said it would be better to use the D7, right?
Right.
And that's where it's really going to help you, because then it's more carnal. Then it's about the children. Then it's about transactions. Then it's
Mm-hmm.
about interacting with each other on on an equitable level, because the D7 holds that promise. It holds the promise of children, but the children are the byproduct of what marriage is. And so the physical side of marriage, right?
Right.
The spiritual side is your dharma, your purpose, how you overcome challenges and inequities, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
every person's going to bring you something that they're missing something, and you're missing something. How do we best complete each other to continue our growth and our development? That has nothing to do with with carnal or conjugal or physical transactions. Children come out of a physical transaction, right? Now, if you're spiritually oriented, then you can create spiritual children out of those transactions. But most people are having sex. Most people are making love, as they say, right? No one's sitting
Right.
down meditating with each other and say, sweetheart or honey, let's bring in an ancestor. Let's incarnate a higher order being. Let's bring in some children that can change our community and our situation. That's not the conversation usually. It's usually we got drunk, right? We went out on the town and came home, and I ripped your clothes off, and you ripped my clothes off, and we got it in, and we woke up and took a pregnancy test, and now you're pregnant. That's kind of the order of the day usually. But if you're consciously creating someone, that's the D9, right? If you're
Right.
consciously involved with, you know, sitting down and saying, okay, when's the best time to do it, right? Not only just what to do, but when to, right? That's conscious creation. And that is when the D9 can really hold the promise of what it said as the relationship chart, right? But other than that, you know, we're just out here. And here's the thing, right? You can still see the negatives, right? You'll still see the challenges in someone that doesn't hold those tenets, but you're gonna also see it in their spirituality. You're going to see it in
Right.
their practices. So that's why we use it that way first, because if I know that you're loose as far as your principles are concerned, and what you uphold as far as your your um your regular, what we call sadhana, then I know that you're going to treat the relationship and thus forth the same way, right?
It's interesting because you hear a lot of, especially Indian, Vedic astrologers that say, the Navamsha chart, the D9 chart doesn't activate until after you're 28 or 30 or so.
I've
you,
heard
you
even
hear,
40, right? Yeah,
right.
right.
But that's why whether they know that's why they're saying that, that's why. Because before that time period, you're not even there yet for real. You can have a lot of knowledge in your head. You could have an orientation that kind of gives you a natural inclination to kind of functioning in what everyone views as a spiritual kind of lifestyle, but you don't have the life experiences all the way there yet to be 100% like on the battlefield of developing yourself spiritually and stuff like that, to even be even see what that chart's playing. And you can see it, but you're not all the way in the game yet until you get into that realm, that next phase of life.
Right. Right. And everyone has their own kind of special path. you know
Right.
we all have a general path where we're trying to become, you know um, higher order beings, have acquire self-realization. But each one of us has an individual path. And so just like we all have 5 fingers, we also have a fingerprint. So,
Right.
you know, that spiritual path that you take, it could be that the marriage is connected to someone that is going to teach you about your sexuality, right? To
Mm-hmm.
harness those things, to use them as an engine to your success, right? And
Mm-hmm.
not be the litmus test of your success, right? It could be that you're with someone that is very opinionated, right? And you becomes you're very opinionated and being a very intellectually oriented individual, right? And that path of intellectuality, right, which some call yan yoga, right? G N A N A, right? Yoga, right? Or GYAN yoga, where it's more of a mental approach, right? You're still going to see that in the dharmic path and in the relationship, right? They're going to be one and the same, because you're going to get somebody that's going to test your what? Their intellect, right?
Right.
You're going to get somebody that's going to test your mind, right? Your mental, and I say mind is in your left brain syllogistic Cartesian logic capacity, right? Because you're so smart, right? You're going to get someone that's just as smarter, if not what? Smarter,
Smarter.
to
Right.
test that. So each one of us has our very, you could be very, what they call emotional, right? And sensitive, and, you feel everything. And, some people will call that bhakti yoga, right? So you're going to get someone that's going to test your sensitivities. But in life, that's still your spiritual path. You just get someone that kind of incarnates that, so that you can take a look at how you're functioning on that path. That's the essence of the D9.
Indeed, indeed. Big ups to that. Well, shoot, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into today's show or whatnot. This has been an interesting topic, and those of you who, be, out on the YouTube streets and just, in the world of philosophy and different things like that, you may have, come across some concepts. And one concept is like this concept of archetypes. And of course, we know that there's a bunch of different type of people that manifest in the world. But, especially in the modern world, they try to, take the different personality types and, break them down into simpler categories. We did that as well, but I think we were a little better at doing it than, the Western world is at doing that. But you may have come across this this concept about the three archetypes of men, right? And I'm not talking about like man, like, like mankind or whatnot. I'm talking about like literally like the male gender, right? Or whatnot. There's these three main archetypes that, I can't remember who came up with this concept. I'll look it up in a second. But they came up with this concept of, there's three types of men, and basically there's a rogue man, okay, a rakish man, and a refined man, or whatnot. And, some of you, if you, check out Kevin Samuels or different people like that, you may have heard them refer to this or whatnot. And I think he may have made a comment about it and said that, in today's society, the only way that the Western world views manhood is through the eyes, through the category of the rogue man, right? Like if you're not a roguish man, then it's almost like not viewed as being a masculine man or whatnot, and I just kind of like sparked something in my brain because I was thinking about, something, how that applies, in the science of Jyotish and the astrological sciences. And, we can kind of see that unfolding in a certain category of, astrological signs where these concepts kind of play themselves out. So that's what we're going to talk about today, the three archetypes of man. Not saying that there's only three archetypes of man, but we're going to leverage that, that kind of symbology to talk about, kind of what it's pointing at, from an astrological perspective. So let's get into that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Um, the fire signs are really kind of what harnesses and really focuses on the masculine aspect within
Right.
astrology. And masculine signs, of course, especially the fire signs, which is the most masculine, right? You have also air signs, which are masculine as well, right? But fire, it's that kind of je ne sais quoi of, you know, um, having the ability to stand up, right? Be noticed, take charge, right? Be deliberate, right? What the kind of classic rendition of a man is.
Right.
And,
Masculinity. Different,
masculinity at its
right.
finest, yeah, at its best, right? When you look at the fire signs, they really exhibit, you know, and I don't want people to get this, because this is not gender specific, because fire signs, you could have a woman that's Sagittarius ascendant, as I'm sure my good brother knows, right? Right,
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 or Sag
right.
Moon.
Yeah, Sag energy, right? It's not just,
We lost you for a second. We lost you for a second, my brother. Bear with us 1 second, people. He's gonna come out and come in. Peace to everybody in the chat. Definitely let us know your comments, any insights or anything you have about this. Let us know what you think, different things like that. All right, sounds like we got our good brother back. Boom, we can hear you.
how are we doing?
Good, solid, perfect.
All right. So, Kevin Samuels, and I just want to tie it into his kind of statement, right? Because he has a very black and white purview of male and female gender roles, and we've talked about him previously, right? Um, he definitely has some correct statements, right, when it comes to life, but it's sometimes a little skewed because of maybe his experiences or his lack of kind of integration with African spiritual principles. But
Right,
the truth of it, to some degree, is you know um, that rugged kind of masculinity, right? A lot of us, and in the culture, when we talk about rugged, right, we could also, and there's two sides to this. Let me make the positive and the negative kind of split it between the two. The ruggish, right, would be, um, you know, the person that is not afraid to get their hands dirty, right?
right.
Um, you know,
That's the
and
one
that
who go over
gamut,
that goes over the hill first. Goes over the hill first and
right,
catches them arrows. Come back and be like, "Yo,
right,
they're deep over there."
right,
they shoot. They shoot and they.
right,
you
exactly,
know.
exactly. Um, that type of man, because society is actually leaning less away from that kind of man, and um, I would even say it's almost considered now to be um, to- it's borderline toxic almost. If you know what I mean, it's almost, society has gotten to that point where we've left because we have become so technologically advanced to some degree, right?
Right,
Because we've gotten away from the kind of industrial or even the way of life where we have to kind of fend for ourselves on a regular basis. It's becoming more where this type of man is considered toxic. And again, it doesn't necessarily mean that, but there's a thin line, right, between when we talk about the ruggish and the roguish, right?
right.
Right. The ruggish is the type where, he's the protector, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's the fighter, right? He's the warrior, right? He's the soldier, right? He's the mechanic, right? Even the mechanic is kind of like this type of person, right? Just
Right.
and
Hands on.
hands on, right? Just gets into it, gets dirty, ain't worried about how he looks, right? To others, right? And will be able to kind of push forward in regards to just any type of action that is, masculine in nature. Where
Right.
the other side of that is roguish. And because society has to have duality, you have that type excuse me, that is um the villain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um the bully, right? Um um, the um, the abuser, right? You know, again, it's a thin line,
Right.
and I think Kevin Samuels tries to do a job as much as possible where that rugged type of man, right, is considered quote unquote, the man's man, right? The man that men, I guess, apparently look up to or try to emulate as far as manhood is concerned. But as we're going to talk about here, there's another couple of types, right, that can diverge from that and still be very much considered, manly. Um,
R- Right. I think he, like, I think that's, I mean, you just, and especially, I think, because you got to think about it like this too. Back in the day, when I think about like my father's generation and everything like that, like, you know, pre hip hop, right? You had men that could sing. You understand what I'm saying? And singing wasn't viewed as a feminine thing. You
right.
understand what I'm
My
saying?
point, yes, my point. Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Brothers that get, they'll get clean. You know what I'm saying? I mean, people get clean today, but when I think about my dad and my uncles, what I mean, I'm from the Midwest. Like Cleveland. If you're from Cleveland, you got a lot of family. Chicago, Cleveland, Chicago, that Midwest type of old school. What they would call like a player. You understand what I'm
Right,
saying?
right. We're gonna
They
talk
they
about that too, though, because we got them locked in. Trust me, right?
Right. It
Yeah.
was a different, it was a broader spectrum of what you see today. And I mean, it's like you mentioned, it's kind of, fading a little bit, but, especially up until this point, definitely from the 90s up until, the 2019, 2020 and stuff like that, we went through a real heavy phase of everybody was like, there was a rugged, you understand, like a, pants sagging. You understand what I'm saying? You feel me? Like a different, what I mean? It was just
Oh
a
yeah,
different aura that you had to always be on. You know what I mean?
yeah, definitely. And you know, I don't want to say the wrong thing, right?
Uh
Because we
huh.
are on YouTube, right? But
Right.
my era was, when you were from the streets, that street element, you had, Dickies, right?
Right.
But they were creased, right? Uh,
He a West Coast guy.
yeah, you had,
That was rocking creases in Cleveland too, a little bit. Yeah.
yeah. I
That was.
mean, you had, it was a uniform that you almost even wore, right, to some
Right.
degree, right? Where now skinny jeans, right?
Yeah.
You know, just it's just different, right? And I don't want to say bad or good, right? It's just if you wore skinny jeans back in the day, right, there was a whole different conversation going on, right? If I
Right.
walked in with skinny jeans in my high school days, they'd be like,
well, it depends. What year was you in high school?
I graduated in '92.
Okay. You might have maybe 92 was right then, but if you was like in 88, 89, you might have you would have got away with skinny jeans cuz there was only skinny jeans
It went as in like,
in the 80s like, the jeans cuz I remember there was a while before you couldn't even really find like real live baggy jeans. Like you had to take Wranglers and almost make them into baggy jeans, but everything that was available like your Levi's and all that stuff like that. They was for all practical purposes skinny jeans, but you just wore them different. You didn't wear them like, you know what I'm saying? Like when you look at NWA, any of the early rappers, all of them were wearing skinny jeans, but it's the way that you wore the skinny jeans. You understand what I'm saying? That I think changes
yeah,
it.
yeah. I mean, we cuffed ours on the bottom inward, right?
Uh
And
huh.
we creased it to where the cuff would stay inside. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it depends. I think on where you're from too, because like you said, you're from the Midwest and from on the West Coast, right? We really don't. It was just you had that kind of cliche-ish uh, hood look. You know what I mean? It was just very much, white Cortezes. It was a standard look. So, and we just now it's just a free for all to some degree, right? You wear what you want to wear, you wear how you want to wear it, and it's to be accepted because everyone has, their say. And even when we talk about this, we could even go so far as to look at it from perspective of when I was a young man, right? You had winners and you had losers, right?
Right.
Yet you had a pecking order to where you either were on the top and then you trickle down from there. Now everybody's a winner, right? Right? Everybody's
And topically or like superficially, everybody's a winner, but it's
uh,
still those
like
pecking
per
orders still
per
exist.
society per societies. You see what I mean?
Right.
Kind of. One second. So per society's kind of approach to it, definitely right. Now you get a ribbon no matter what, right?
Right.
And field day, if you were the ruggish type, right, the athletic type, right, and again, like I said, the ruggish can span outward from many different purviews, right? There's different ways of doing the ruggish type, right? You have the athlete, he's the ruggish type, football player, basketball player, even might even be tennis player to some degree, right? That's the ruggish type, and that's where we
Right.
can look at the fire signs to kind of gauge, that type of, you know, um, prototype in man. But I think that's slowly dying to some degree because, like I said, society is, and again, we have to be careful in labeling people because there's so many variances that are within the construct of a human, right? You have a chart that has all kind of different placements, but when you do see that particular Aryan model, you see it, right?
Right.
It's undeniable, right? It's carte blanche, like this is what it is, and so you can see it displayed in society on multiple levels. Your police officer, he's the kind of rugged type, or if he's crossed that line where he's lost his integrity, he becomes the bad cop, but they're still the cop type, or hero or protector type archetype. And so, the fire signs are great ways to gauge that. It's a way that the universe has set up so society has, you know, things that are pegged to fill a role and need. Right? We do need these type of brothers, and even type of men that help uphold that kind of standard. And like you said, back in the day, it was more prevalent to be that kind of individual, but also you have others that were, you know, different as well. I when I grew up, um, I was surrounded by the rugged type, right? I mean,
Right.
I wouldn't consider myself as such, right? But it was more that's the type that get off the porch, right?
Mhm.
Go, ride your bike, get dirty, come back, get into trouble sometimes because that energy is fearless. It doesn't know boundaries. It doesn't know consequence, right? It has to learn by trial and error. So that type of rugged type, I was surrounded by it. I'm not considered that type, right? Because we're going to talk about the other types in just a second. But it does hold some weight. It holds some merit as far as these particular types of attributes that men can hold, right? Not to say women can't. Again, this is not bias, but we're talking about Kevin Samuels, and we're talking about kind of the purview that has been promoted amongst several different manospheres, right? I don't know if you don't. I know my good brother knows manospheres, but those of you that don't know, manospheres are kind of like where you have these kind of enclaves of men that talk about manhood, right? And this is kind of the current theme that has been discussed through these manospheres or these kind of groups of men that discuss manhood, right? What type of man are you? How do you size up? You know, are you the
Right.
rugged, right? Are you the rough? Are you the down and dirty? Are you the one that's gonna take, kick butt and take names, right? Or are you the rakish or are you the refined, right? And all three are definitely the type, but just understand that when you look at it, when you really look at the through the lens of astrology, you can definitely see it in the Aryan type of individual,
Indeed.
right? Um, what do you think about the rakish kind of disposition? What's your call on where are you feeling with that? What's your
So, based on kind of like the definition, of course, to me, it's like somebody that's kind of, all right, before I even say that, I look at this more of like a, more than a type of man, but a type of masculinity. And it almost can be viewed as the type of phases, a general outline of the type of phases that a man can go through in life.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like you might start off, a little bit more roguish. You understand what I'm saying? And then, when you get a little bit more mature, you can pull off the kind of rakish type, the more, kind of like, you're like a little bit dangerous. You understand what at that point? Like you
Mhm.
got a little bit enough to be a little dangerous. You understand what I'm saying? Like you're a little mature now. You might, have, some stripes on your belt a little bit now, and you kind of testing your yourself in the world, where you stand and stuff like that. And then, after all those experiences, you kind of culminate into like a more refined person that can probably tap into each one of those, but your general presentation is a more refined, kind of fire. You understand what I'm saying? Type of
Tempered,
man.
yeah,
Yeah,
tempered. Yeah.
or whatnot.
Yeah, that is true. That's kind of um, the schedule that um, many men can be on, and to some degree, it does happen in a natural way. But sometimes I think we can become rigid.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Not now in today's society. I don't
It's
think.
not right,
I
right,
don't think. I don't think we're doing that en masse. No.
right. Yeah.
you know. it's-
I think that's the grand ideal, right, for
right.
us to become, that type of individual. But um, you know, life has it as such that a lot of times, and one of the things that you and I both know is when you approach the same different situations with the same mindset, right? Right, you're gonna get a result that's usually failure, right?
Right.
Um, and that's what life has it is such that when we are locked into these archetypes, right? When we're locked into being just rugged, you know, I don't know how to respond in a refined way, right?
Right.
I don't know how to respond in a um, je ne sais quoi type of uh, uh, way where I can move you without you being moved, right? Knowing you're being moved. Um, we just get locked in, or some of us need to be a little more rugged,
Right.
right? And we get caught into the kind of, um, you know, like you said, the singing type, right?
Mm.
The lover, not the fighter type disposition. And sometimes you need to be the fighter, and I think women want in relationships all three, you know, they do to some degree, right? They want the man that they know somebody comes to the door or comes busting in your house late at night, right? The rugged is gonna come out, right?
Right.
He's gonna present himself and very well, right, and be able to handle business. And they want to be able to have it to where if they are going to, let's say, a business party, you can definitely be presentable, well articulated, you know um, mannerable, sociable. And also they want it to be when you're alone, right, or when you're off, in amongst the societal kind of interactions, you can be the one that shines, that has the kind of ability to put on a show, the ability to attract others, and to be, special in a way. So, I think women want all three types, and it's 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 reasonable, but
It's not.
is it probable, right? It's
I
not.
got
It's yeah.
to kind of to your point, because I mean, if you're black and you're in America, I say about, according to the studies, about 8 times out of 10 you're raised by your mom, right?
True.
And from my experience of primarily being raised by a single mother, I think single mothers, especially if she's a woman who got a good head on her shoulders and stuff like that, she wants you to be like the more refined type. And I had an experience coming up where my mom, I had like these ruggish tendencies. You understand what I'm saying? But she was always trying to, so like I had asthma coming up, and like she used to always try to keep me out of sports, and she worked a lot. So when I was in the fourth grade, all my friends were like older than me. They was like seventh grade, eighth grade, and stuff like that. And came fall time, everybody signing up for football. And my mom, I've been begging my mom to play football since I was like 5 years old. You understand what I'm saying? She never would let me. So I just thugged it out, went by went behind her back, got a forged signature, signed up for the middle school football team in elementary school. She didn't know until like the first or second game of the You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, you're trying to get, especially black men, that a lot of what you come up in is trying to push you in a certain direction, and you kind of have to, you're almost on your own and finding, you understand what I'm saying, these different kind of masculine expressions. You have to almost go get them. You understand what I'm saying? Because sometimes you're born in the situations that try to, you know what I mean? Like you don't always get the full masculine expression. You know what I mean? In
True.
today's
True.
world, from my opinion,
No, you're right. You're right. I think, if we really look at the African model for manhood, I think you had a good point earlier in that, and it's not even, I want to say African. I think just traditional societies, right, have it to where life is designed in that way. You go through and you get it to the point where you um, have a rites of passage. You know, that's the rugged archetype, right? The rites of passage, facing your trials, learning courage, you know, um, adapting to your circumstance to make the best of it to where you overcome any adversity. That's the rites of passage, right? And I think, as you were saying, that's that part of you that was calling forth to come to that realization that, hey, I can do this. I can handle it. It's nothing that I can't do. And sports is one of those. I mean, and I say sports is a good way to do that. You know, Sports is
right?
an excellent way to do that. You meet young men that are, rough, tough, and dangerous. You shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow. You fight your opponent, and you come out either winner or loser. But you at least know, right? We,
You're right.
you right. That's kind of the modern day rites of passage, right?
Yeah.
In the positive sense. In the negative sense, it's gangs. You know, it's the
Yeah.
same thing, right?
Right.
You got a team, your grip, your blood, right? Your disciple, your vice lord, right? Your whatever. That's your team, right? And you fight for your team, right? You go through and they tough and rough you up, right? See if you can handle yourself, right? If you can, you're on the team, right? Of
Right.
course, this is play for
Or
keeps instead of playing ball, right? But and that's why I talked about that rugged archetype with the positive and the negative, right?
yeah.
But
I mean, that
right,
you brought up an excellent point as well, because I got another story. When I first moved to Atlanta, and in the neighborhood I moved in, you know, we I mean, I had been going there for a couple weeks and stuff like that, and then all the older cats was like, we was getting off the bus, and they was like, these were much older than us. We elementary, and they were like, they had to be like ninth grade and stuff like that. And me, and I guess whoever the top ranking youngest little kid in the neighborhood. They was like, "Y'all got to scrap, man." You understand what I'm saying? And they circled around us and stuff like that. And we had the box or whatnot. You know what I'm saying? And after that point, I was respected in the neighborhood.
You earned your respect, right?
Right.
So that's kind of the first stage, and that's an excellent way to put it. Is that you've learned your kind of way to do things, and then way to do things as far as getting things done, right?
Right.
But then there's another stage in traditional societies where now you have gone through your rites of passage, you've proven yourself, you've fought the lion, you caught the lion and killed him, right? Or you faced your opponent, you've overcome your trials, whatever it is, right? Um, and then you become a regular part of society. You are now considered someone that has the ability to reproduce, to add to your communal group. You stand out whatever in whatever field or craft that you're in. Or you're a farmer, or you're make textiles, or you kind of get some not refinement, but you gain pride, you gain that kind of ability to be separate and individual, not from the individual, from the group, but an individual as a person, that you're not just a robot, you're not an automaton, you're not out of control, right,
Right.
type deal. And then
Automaton.
you get that aspect of life where now you've lived the majority of your life, and you're settled down, you're more you have a lot more understanding, and you can apply both types equally, right? And you have a balance. And someone actually said, I think Michael Tanner talks about like the Thomas Rogers and Satra, it is like that to some degree. In fact, that's a very good way of putting it, right?
Right.
But you get to that age where now you're an elder, or you're what they call an OG, right?
Yeah.
Right. You gained not only the respect but the wisdom and the knowledge and experience that comes along with life, and teaches you when to apply things and when not to. And that's the refined aspect. That's really when you become a whole man, right? But again, right, that's the ideal, right? That's the way it would be done if we were in a balanced and equitable society, but we're not, right? We don't really know rites of passage. We do instinctively, and that's why I was talking about that kind of sports and type. But a lot of men I know a lot of men that stay in that line, that thought process. They know every single player's stats on the
Hmm.
team. It was high school. I'm like, how do you know this stuff? Like, they're caught in that rugged type. They're out playing ball like as if they're replaying the football game, and this is what I would have done if I were, Terrell Owens, or if I were, whoever. You can tell I'm not a sports type person, but um, you know, they do that, and I'm talking about men that are my age and even older, right? That still are in that rugged competitive aspect. And so that's why when you look at a chart, and it's variables, right? You can look at it and it could be Mars conjunct the moon, it could be Mars in the ascendant, right? It could be a lot of Aryan dispositions. It could be Mars conjunct the ascendant Lord. It can be different ways that it comes out, but Mars will have its say, right? It will have its impact to make sure that that rugged energy is played out to the T. So we get into the rakish. Rakish is it's more refined, right?
Hmm.
It's more of the ladies' man, right? It's more of the kind of I don't want to say romantic. That wouldn't be a good word, but it's more of the type that can, you know, really put on a good show. Put on the airs of looking nice. sharp to death. The rugged man don't care about looking nice, right?
Right.
This one, the rakish, looks more, refined. Not He's not refined, but he looks more he plays more that part.
Right.
Where he has a suit and tie, he has the cologne, right? Got a little jewelry on, right? He knows what
Yeah.
to say, how to say it, where to say it, when to say it, and he kind of pulls in more like that sun type of attribute, more like that Leo energy. He kind of pulls things in, right? He
Right.
attracts things where the rugged is going to do what? He might club
You're
you and
gonna
take you home with him, right?
force it.
Right, right. No, you're gonna go out with me, right? We're gonna go to, like, so the rakish is, he's got more of those leonine type dispositions. And Leo, it's the sign of performance,
Mhm.
right? It's the sign of shining. It's the sign of, you know, the arts, not to say artistically in the sense like making things, but acting, you know,
Mhm.
being a star, because the sun is nothing but a what? It's
A
nothing but a
star.
star, right?
Right.
Being the star of the show, being the centerpiece, right? Walking in and, you know, commanding the room, but not in the sense of force, but in the sense
Presence.
of presence. Very
Yeah.
well stated, right? That's the rakish, right?
Mhm.
And, Kevin Samuels, he's, like I said, some of the things he says are correct. It's just, it's limited, right? It's just
Mhm.
limited in his approach because there's much more to it than that. Of course, we could talk about every other element and they still would fit some other bill with
Right.
regards to the type of manhood. But fire, because it's that element of manliness, right? That's where I think he and a lot of other manosphere type individuals have locked men into, right?
Right.
Um, the rakish is, he doesn't he doesn't have to move you in a way that is overt. It's subtle to a degree, right? It's smooth. It's as they call debonair, right?
Mhm.
Your Billy D. Williams, right?
Yeah.
Right. For y'all, you're old enough to know who Billy D is, right? Billy D was the Denzel back in the day, right?
Right.
Right. Billy D was the man, when you talk about Lady Sings the Blues or you know,
Billy D.
Billy
You
D,
know,
right? Code
first thing I
45,
think of.
right?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say, man. That's the last major thing I think about. Code 45, and
Right.
he was an undercover brother playing a similar role that he played on the Code 45 commercial. As you
Right,
got,
right. But smooth as butter, right? You know,
yeah,
and women at then in that era, would trip over themselves to get to him. Now and even Denzel's fading out too, right?
right.
I think I don't know who would be now, but
Probably who the chicks like? They like Idris Elba.
Idris Elba, right? And Idris kind of got a little ruggedness to him a little bit, you know.
I think he's if I'm not mistaken, I think his moon is in Leo as well. If I'm not
It
mistaken.
wouldn't be surprising, right?
I think his moon is in Leo. I gotta pull it up to
Yeah,
verify, but I think so.
he doesn't. I want to say a little bit. We compare to Billy D, right? Because
Right.
Billy D is like
He's smooth. He's like the
just like he
you know what I'm
floats. You know what I mean? Like, is he walking and float? I mean,
almost
excellent example.
snoopish.
And he doesn't have any Leo placements because most people think he does, but he doesn't actually. Obama, right? Obama's the rakish kind of individual. He's
Yeah,
refined too, right? He's got some refinedness, but he's got that smooth as butter, hit you with a smile, and just make women titillate and oh my gosh, he's so handsome, that type of energy. So the
he gets
rakish,
some of that because he's black though too, man. He's first real black man that they let rise up in the political stage
true,
like that,
true, true,
and black people generally have just a overarching reputation of having that smoothness. Like a lot of
true,
times
true.
you,
Yeah, we do, right?
yeah,
What do they call it? What's the name for it? Not suave.
swag.
Swagger. Yeah,
Yeah,
right. He's got swagger to him. And that's what
right,
rakish is, having that swagger.
right,
I mean, having that, you you come in and you know how to move and how to shake amongst the best of them. And so, we could see a lot of that type now, especially like, in the entertainment field, because that's where they really shine the most.
right.
But politicians can also be this as well, right?
Especially in America, you have to be. You gotta get votes.
Right.
It's a show. You gotta get. You
You
gotta.
got to put on the show, right? You
Right.
definitely do, right? You can't come in with the rugged type disposition and think you.
Sometimes you depend on who you are.
Yeah, true. I mean, even,
Because Trump,
but he's Leo ascendant though.
but he's
He got
moon
Mars and
Scorpio
Leo too
Scorp,
though,
but he got Scorpio moon.
and Mars and Leo, right?
Yeah.
So he says, grab him by the, right?
Yeah, he's roguish, man. I mean, he has a bit of rakish to it's an acquired. I guess if you're, you know what I mean, if you're in that world, like you're that's like a lot of people who a lot of his supporters, they view him like that. You understand what I'm saying? So I
True.
guess it's environmental is that's the also context you got to put into it as well. But overall, though, man, he's pretty roguish.
Yeah, that Mars is aspects the moon as well.
Yeah,
I said Mars is gonna play itself out, and but the Leo, he tries to present that in a way. You know what I mean?
Right.
He tries to cover it up with the suit and the tie, right?
yeah. I mean, we put together the you like my vaccine? Yeah, my vaccine is doing good. We put that together. They
Right.
did a real good job on that. The way that he
Exactly.
talks about it.
Exactly. My point being, right? So, um, you know, that rakish energy is, like you said, it's when you look at the sun and anything that does with the sun, Leo, even the fifth house to some degree, people with a lot of planets in the fifth house or planets that deal, they have a politician inside of them to some degree, right? They
Mhm.
have that part of them that wants to interact with people on a certain level, right? And you think about it, the fifth house is opposite the 11th, like Leo is opposite Aquarius, right?
Right.
It have this kind of need to be in the centerpiece and to be received by others, right?
Right.
Which is that rakish kind of energy. Um, you know, also that rakishness, and we talk about the positive and the negative, right? It can be, um, I don't want to say narcissistic, right? And that word has been beat down so much.
Nobody knows what it means. They're just
I,
saying
I mean,
they're just saying stuff. Anybody,
that-
you're
it
you're a
just
narcissist.
it's been beat down to the point where almost anybody that has any type of offset or disposition, you're just narcissistic. But if you understood who Narcissus was, everybody has something, some part of them that is narcissistic, right? Narcissism just means that you fall in love with yourself, right? How many women, I know you stop topic of men, but how many women are narcissists to some degree? I know I
Practically
look good.
every Instagram
Oh
model.
my God. Thank
I
you,
mean,
brother. Thank you, right? That's narcissism, right? That's what it is. I mean, people take this word and it's a word. When I was you're, old enough to, I didn't even hear that word. You know, it's just
not
another
not
word.
in the not in the context of dealing with regular people. No,
No, it wasn't in vogue like this. Now everybody, you're a narcissist. You're a narcissist. You're a narc. Like, what? Like, do you have a planet in your chart called the sun? If it's in there, you have some area or way of being narcissistic. If you have
right.
Venus, you have narcissism somewhere, right? You could be narcissistic about your writing skills. I'm the best writer, or I'm the best hairdresser. That's narcissism. When it becomes egotism, right? And that's, I think, a better word, right?
Hmm.
egotism, right? Because you become so magnanimous to yourself that you forget and don't consider others as equal or as important. That's just the ego, right?
I think it's more of a thing today's time because we live in a so-called democracy where it's supposed to be the people. You understand? It's supposed to be the masses. And when someone attempts. I mean, it's a crazy dichotomy because nobody really rises in the West without you know um having a level of, like, I guess, self-importance or something like that. It doesn't happen,
Right.
but people hate it at the same time. They
There's a
love it,
love hate relationship
but they
with it.
hate it at the same time.
Yeah. It's a love hate relationship. And as soon as
Right.
you cross the line where you say something that is unlikable on one, depending on which group you're dealing with, right,
Right.
then you become a narcissist,
Yeah.
right? So, but if you were to say of the three, it would be the rakish type, right?
Hmm.
The
I can see that.
egotism, right? The one that doesn't hold regards in regard to others' perceptions of himself or herself. He doesn't care, she doesn't care in the sense that they're more self important. And that's the dark side of it, right?
Right.
Just like you have the rugged and the roguish, right? You have the rakish and the one that will kind of be, you know, self aggrandizing, right? Self sure, overly sure, right? And, it just goes with the territory, right? Right. Good point, Kumaran Kwesi. Narcissist is a concept that represents the psyche of white people. If we embrace, then that's due to colonization. Exactly. I mean, it's a concept that comes out of modern psychology, right? And
Right.
if you understand psychology, they're just trying to corner or uh, trying to characterize or categorize a person's disposition, which that's what astrology is in the first place, right?
Right.
When they catch up to the reality of what they're trying to do, astrology has been there, done that, got the T-shirt for it. Now, it is interesting that when we talked about Donald Trump, right, in the sense of the negative side of rakishness, he does have Rahu what conjunct the sun.
Junk son. Yeah.
That is a telltale, right, sign of, like my brother said, egotism, right? It's inflated beyond, right, consideration. It becomes inconsiderate, right?
Hmm.
It becomes the rakish gone bad comes to the point where they really can run roughshod over others because there's no one that can equal their ability um or talents. And we always know there's, what's the old saying? There's always somebody what
Better.
better than you.
Right.
Right? So, it's a thin line. You know, we do want to have that part of us that has a sense of pride. Pride is not necessarily negative, is when it becomes too much, then you have a great fall. But with proper pride and healthy pride is proper, right? Because you should take some stock in your abilities and be able to show and prove that you have a skill set that puts you on par with others as far as your abilities are concerned. That's the rakish type of man, right? He's sure of himself when he walks into the room. He knows, right, that I can get a glance, I can get a glare, I can get a look, in the sense of opposite sex, I can get a woman, right? In the sense of a business deal, right? I can outshine my competitor, right? Not in the sense of roughshotting like the rugged, but in the sense of being able to produce or perform, right? That's
Right.
the rakish aspect when we talk about those three types, right? And it's a good thing to go watch Kevin Samuels and watch that video, to hear what he has to say about it and compare and contrast what we're presenting to you from the astrological purview. Because
Sp- Speaking, I don't think we put the correspondence with the roguish. I don't think I don't did we talk about Aries?
Yeah,
Okay, I don't know.
yeah,
I thought we missed that. Yeah.
yeah. I mentioned Mars, right?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
We talked about the headstrong warrior type, right? Well, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we definitely covered because Aries is that prototype,
Right.
right? Aries is the type that just doesn't, it's a fighter. It's the person that deals in, overcoming obstacles. That is in the negative side ruthless, right? But on the
Right.
positive side, a protector or very valiant,
Yeah.
you know. So yeah, we definitely covered that. I maybe
Yeah.
didn't mention Aries as much, and the
Right.
reason is because I want people to kind of start to think about that as an astrological underpinning, right?
Yeah.
That Aries is within, and even within Aries you have subtypes. But
Right.
Aries overall, right, is that rugged or negative, roguish, right,
Yeah.
type of individual, whereas the sun, Leo, is the rakish, right?
Right.
The one that can walk in a business meeting, right? Even may even be what are the rakish is the one that is what's the word? Um uh when he's late. What's the statement? Um
Fashionably late.
Fashionably late is the rakish, right?
Yeah.
And if you think about it, it's a strategy. If everyone else is there and I come a list maybe 5 minutes late, all eyes on what?
Oh me.
Right?
It's a
Especially
man. Yeah. It's a trip. Yeah. Go ahead.
right?
Never
Especially if I
mind.
have something on that I want you to notice, right?
Right.
If I'm making something of a statement, you're gonna look at me and it's gonna be in your mind. Oh, who does he think he is? Right? Oh, he just
Or
comes.
the other side of that too. There's that side of it, but there's the other side of the rakish wanting to um wanting to play by their own rules, but not like, oh, you know what I mean? Like,
That's
you know
the
what I mean?
negative.
Wants to kind of
Exactly.
wants to
Yeah.
control the situation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or whatnot. Yeah.
My point exactly, right?
Yeah.
I make the rules, right? Or I'll bend the rules, right?
Mm-hmm.
But and it can be done in a positive or negative way, right?
Right.
If you're in that position, if you are in if you're in the business world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Business, not in the private in the sector that deals in um, taking, advertising or um, sales, things like that. If you coming in and everyone else is there and you come in 5 minutes late, and it doesn't happen often, you know how to do it right, right?
Right.
You come in and you sit down and everybody, and it's almost like everybody shifts, right? To say, oh, he's late, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then guess what, right? That's gonna be when it's time for you to make your statement, and you have that confidence, that self assuredness that I'm gonna rock this, right? When I make my presentation, it's gonna also be when that presentation is made, it's gonna stand out in their mind because although yes, dude was late, he killed it, right? So it's the level of doing it, and that's that part of being rakish that you know how to do it, right? Not
Yeah.
where you use it and abuse it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know how to do it just right to where it works in your favor. But again, then it could be the control freak issue, right?
Right.
It could be like, nah, every time, and and the thing is, you could be the boss, right? And
Right.
the boss could abuse it can be an abuse of power, right?
Right.
In the sense of the rakish type of individual where womanizing,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's an abuse of power, right?
Right.
I know I'm handsome, right? I know I got the gift of gab, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know I got, financially got somewhat going on, right? And who wouldn't want me, right? Then yeah, it can be an abuse of power, right? Right. So, um, definitely something to consider with regards to, that rakish type of energy, right?
Right.
Where this is something that um, can stand out, right? And that's what rakish wants to do anyway, right? Wants to stand
Right.
out from above the rest.
Right.
Um, Getting into the refined, you know, um, this is the type that is more, you know, it's there and it's noticeable, but
Probably
it's
the least celebrated
probably
today.
it's going to be the least of the three. And um, being the least of the three, right? It doesn't mean it's the less of the three, right?
Right.
It just means the approach is quite different because the refined aspect just really holds it down to where um, you approach things from a cool head, right?
You know,
You cool, calm, and collected, as they say, right?
you want to tell you something about that? Um, Remember Boys in the Hood? What's his name? Furious Styles.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? A
yeah,
lot of people. It's hard for people to relate to the refined, especially when you're hardcore rogue. But you remember when he was out there at that empty lot, and he was over there pointing. You know, he's like, man, you see, there's a liquor store right there, and there's a gun store, and they're trying to look. And they was like, he caught their attention that time. But usually they looking at him like, man, he come over here with the. Here go Furious, man. He think he everybody daddy. Ain't that what Trey said over
mhm,
here? He said
mhm.
he think he everybody daddy.
Right, right. That's definitely the refined character, right?
Right.
Making sense of things, right? Um, but having the rakish can be hot. They're all hot. They're all hot,
Mm-hmm.
but their heat hits you in a different way, right?
Right.
Aries hits you to where it burns and right you recoil, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rakish hits you to where you don't recoil, but you sidestep or you avoid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And refined hits you to where you almost don't know you've been hit, right? Until you think and reason and add up what was being said or done,
Right.
right? And it's I don't even say smooth because rakish can be the smooth type, but this type is just more where its expression is
It's
profound,
it's like
right?
a chess game
It's a
almost.
chess game, exactly. You've been moved into a position you don't even know it's too late, right?
Right.
It's almost like wow, I didn't even realize that's what was being done.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if the rugged is the hard nosed player, right? Right. And the rakish is the quarterback, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the refined would be the coach,
Right. Right. Excellent. Yep. Absolutely. Yep.
right? It sees things from a much broader and much bigger perspective and can use and articulate things in such a way that it can move people by sleight of hand, by being in a mindset that it doesn't have to use force. The force is from the thought process that's been already, you know, created much prior to, or much well before, right? You even engage it, right? It's already thought of things that you're going to say that it's going to say, and it's going to say in light of, it's already steps ahead. That's the refined aspect,
Right.
and you know, like I said, we were talking previously. Um, this comes with experience. This comes with, testing the waters, having gone through being those other type of types, and realizing how to walk that fine line. It's like I said, refinement is that fine line. It knows how to do things in a way that it really doesn't have much resistance, right? Not in the sense of uh, others not being able to be moved or be swayed by it. Now, there's a negative side to this, though, right? And the negative side is really having a disposition where you are refined and you do know, right? But sometimes because you know so much, you don't actually implement what's known.
Right.
Right? It's almost, you're to the point where you're so refined you miss the opportunity. And that's Sagittarius by far, right? Because Sagittarius have to find that balance between being all on or being off. It's a multitask type energy,
Right.
right? And so it's easier to do things in the sense that it's already knowing what it's gonna do, but it's literally implementing and doing it in a consistent way. That's where that energy can falter to some degree. But it because remember we're talking the astrology principles here. It holds an arrow, right?
Right. So yeah.
It's gonna
No, go ahead.
it's gonna
Yeah.
try to hit its mark,
Right.
right? And it has to repeat things a few times, but that refinement is gonna eventually hit the mark.
Right. Right.
You know, that refinement is gonna know next time I'm gonna do this and not this, and I'm gonna add this and subtract this, and I'm gonna swing this and push that, right? So that's the refinement. It can adjust, right? It can keep that energy to where it's just right, right? Whereas the rakish, right, it can burn and hurt people's feelings, and the rugged can hurt you physically, right? Right,
Just
right. It can produce a physical effect where now it's complete avoidance, right? The
right.
rakish can produce avoidance that's tempered, and the refined, right? It's harder to get burnt by them just because you know it's just not overt. It's just not too condescending. It's not to the point where you can't at least handle it. But
Right.
it can be judgmental though.
Oh yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah. It can
Yeah.
put you in a box, and sometimes it has to learn that you know it's several boxes that people can check off, not just one. So refined is really like we talk about that Sagittarian energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
That it's it has a horse and a human.
Yeah.
It has that type that can rear up and ride, and the horse it can make the horse do tricks, but the horse can also have a recoil, right? To where it needs to know, okay, if I hit the horse this way, right, he won't trot to the right or trot to the left. He'll buck. So, you know,
Right.
and that's the refining aspect. It's the subtle kind of, okay, now I'm gonna do this, and I'm now gonna do that. You know what I mean? And again, it hits its mark. One of the thing about Sagittarius energy is that it will accomplish its goals. It is ruled by the planet Jupiter, right? Which is luck, right? In the sense of what we think of as luck, right?
Right.
It's opportunities that replenish themselves. And if you get opportunities over opportunities, you eventually get it, right? You eventually get it. So the refined types are just not as they're less noticeable, and they're actually, even I would say, not to say Sagittarius is less, but the archetype is less. Um, it calls less attention to itself.
It's like a professor. You know.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Right? You know, Professors don't go around saying I'm a professor, but if you talk to them,
They
you're
will.
talking to a right.
Yeah.
Whereas the rakish is gonna say I'm the man, right?
Yeah.
You'll know it when you meet a rakish one. You may not
Right.
know that you met the refined unless you're engaging, right? Unless there's an opportunity for that door to open. Sometimes they'll walk right by you, right? And you
Right.
won't even notice. Now the rugged, you will know, right? He's gonna make himself known too, right? Get out of my
Yeah.
way, right? Don't step on my toes, right? You in line and you supposed to be in line, hurry up, right? I got things to do, right? Whereas
Right.
the refined, he may sit there and just observe, measure, calculate, and produce no physical effect. But once you get to the point where you turn around, you might be talking to them, and you're like, "Man, are you a professor or something?" Actually, I am. Right? Or are you a teacher?
Yeah.
Actually, I am. Right? Or are you, they may have a wealth of knowledge about something that you just don't even think about. How do you know all this stuff? Well, I'm an expert, right?
Yeah.
In X, Y, and Z, right? Oh, wow. Or I'm a lawyer, right? Or I'm a doctor, right? This is your refined type.
Right.
Um, you know, again,
And
right? They don't draw
Lawrence,
attention to themselves, but once you're in their presence, it's undeniable.
yeah, and speaking of that, I know I brought up Furious Styles, but Lawrence Fishburne, especially after like his earlier roles, he always plays refined. I mean, like Morpheus, the professor from Higher Learning. Of course, we mentioned Furious Styles.
But what
Um,
about deep cover though?
that's what I said.
Oh yeah, yeah, later.
I
Yeah,
said
later. Yeah,
his later roles.
yeah, yeah. I was
he,
like
he,
deep
he,
cover though, right?
no, no, no,
Yeah.
and King of New York. King of New York.
King
He was
King of New York was rugged to the core, right?
Yeah, he was. That
Yeah,
was Larry. That was Larry
yeah.
Fishburne back then.
That's Larry, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
whatnot. He actually went by Larry Fishburne back then.
You're right. You're right. You sure did, right? So yeah, and he played that role well, right? I
Right.
mean, interesting because he played in a movie called Bad Company too, right?
Hmm.
And he played the kind of a refined thug, right? He was a thug, but he was refined to a degree. But yeah, you're right. As he's matured, he's definitely played Morpheus.
Right.
That's, I mean, if that's not the refined type, I don't know what
It's
is, right?
it's like the perfect
Hmm.
Sag energy right there.
It is, right?
General Ed with the ability to be a soldier if needed, and the
Hmm.
visor, and the whole nine.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, always outnumbered. I don't know if you ever saw that. He played a guy that was kind of on the lower rungs of society, did his time, but always, and he was poor, right? You kind of consider him like a bum type,
Hmm.
homeless, but knowledgeable, right? And common sense knowledge too. Like, you know, caught this young boy, told him not to do this. Just the wise one, right? So yeah, he's definitely got that as he's gotten older and more and more. I mean, he played in Aliens, right? And even in Aliens, he was the one that was a knower. So yeah, interestingly enough, I don't see any Sag in his chart, but he definitely has played it well, right? I don't think I don't think I've seen it. I think he's borderline Leo. I think he's Cancer Sun, but I don't have a good time on Lawrence. We might do if we can get a good time on Lawrence, we might do him as a breakdown on one of these shows to show his skill set. But he's by far my favorite actor. Right?
Really.
Um, yeah, I think because he plays so many. I mean, as he's because of what Keelan and the Bee, he was still a nowhere there, right?
Hmm.
But I'm talking about the range of acting, right? That he can go into because um, in Aliens he played a bad guy that looked like a good guy. He was kind of shady a little bit. So, it's just his range. I think he has a really broad range of acting, and it's
Right.
shown that throughout his career. Whereas Denzel, we talk about him, he's typecast easily. Um, um, just Morgan Freeman, even now Morgan did play back in the day. Um, Street, I think it's called Street. I want to say Street Smarts. He played a thug for real. He played a pimp, right? But that's the rakish, right? The
Right.
pimp is the rakish, right? If we had to put like a negative quality to rakish, it'd be the pimp, right?
Yeah.
Right? The pimp, right? The one that's gone bad, that knows how to use just enough force, right? He'll hit you, but he won't kill you, right? Whereas roguish, right? He's gonna beat you to a pulp, right? And you better not do it again. So it's interesting that we're talking about these kind of different archetypes within their positive and negative attributes, because you can see the pimp through, right, that attribute, right? Definitely so. So, as far as the Rakish is concerned, so yeah, the refined, definitely from that Sagittarian purview, is just that, you are erudite, right? You have that kind of just ability to use information in a way that most people don't. It's not just information, but you can say it in a way in such that is thought provoking, right?
Right.
So yeah, those are your definitely your three. When we look at just from the lock in of the fire energy, the lock in of locking in that kind of obviously like Kevin Samuels kind of rendition of manhood, right? Then those are the three that you can look to or kind of attribute with regards to an astrological purview.
Right. And the interesting thing, especially if you're looking at ascendant or moon, these signs they look different on women. I mean, they carry
Oh,
some
that's
of the same,
this.
but
Yeah,
they're not. They look
they're very
very.
different.
They manifest differently in women, and
Very,
that's not
they're
being
not even
sexist, but
close. Yeah,
it's
yeah,
just analysis.
yeah. This is just par the manosphere type of conversation, right?
Right.
When we talk about women, it's very different. It can be somewhat similar because for a
Mhm.
woman, you got Aries type women,
Yeah.
right? You know, you got Aries type women. You got Leo type women all day, right? Um, there's no fault. There's nothing. No shortchanging of these in regards to the opposite sex. Women have these qualities just like men do, but
Right.
they come off in a way that's. And this is the thing about this is one of the things I really treasure about Jyotish and traditional quote unquote Vedic astrology. It does differentiate between male and female charts.
Hmm.
It's not the stock honed in energy where it's just all charts are the same. You have a variance between the two sexes, and it hones in. Aries women are really kind of more of your fast women. Not to say
Hmm.
that all women in Aries are fast, not to say that, but they're definitely women that will go for what it is that they want in a man, or they'll attract that too, right?
Hmm.
Sometimes Aries will attract the men that kind of complete that physical or kind of mental part of themselves where, and they can be athletic too. Women can be athletic, right? You got women that like to be. I know a sister that's got three planets in Aries in the third house. She's former police officer, right?
So Serena Williams' moon is in Aries.
Moon is in Aries in the four. Her ascendant Lord is in the fourth.
I think she's a Aries ascendant, right?
Aries ascendant. Yeah, she is Aries ascendant. I know that. Mars is in
Yeah.
Cancer,
Hmm.
right? So athletic, you know, likes to work out, you know, wants to be fit and healthy. That's Aries woman, right? Doesn't mean she runs roughshod, but she definitely has a higher, lower threshold for dealing with things from a long term perspective, especially when it comes to connections of other type of the opposite sex. They can, dismiss you fairly easily, right? Leo women, right? You
Oh,
have
yeah.
women that are Leo that are natural born, what we consider leaders, right? That put themselves in positions of authority, that are business owners, right?
Sorry, no, her moon is in Leo. My bad. Serena Williams.
Yeah, but there it is, right?
Yeah.
Right now, that's a double whammy, right? Because, right, right. I just think about that picture, man. That picture is just classic, right?
You talking about when?
That picture is classic, man. He got
Help
an
me.
Aries woman with a moon in Leo. He
Help me.
didn't know what he was getting himself into, man. He got caught up in the web of the beautiful black woman and just that's it, right? I'm smitten. I'm stuck, right?
Right.
Um, it's interesting. But Leo women can be bosses, right? They can be, definitely carry the torch as far as putting on an air about themselves and having the torch of, commanding. Not the same as men. Men are gonna have it a little bit more extra on it, right? But it's
Mm-hmm.
still there, right? But it's softer, right? And of course, we can get into physiology and all kind of different stuff because it's going to be different with men and women, but Sages as well, right? And
Right.
full well, right,
Yeah.
what that is, right? We don't even go down that road, right?
Yeah.
Uh, right? Sages
Indeed.
definitely are up here, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're on it, right? They ain't gonna tarry, right? And they will tell you,
Mm-hmm.
right, what they feel, right? They're gonna tell you this is you. You didn't eat that spinach I made for you last night, right? And they're gonna tell you, right? Because they can be outspoken, right? But
Right.
very witty.
Yeah.
Sagittarius
Yeah.
women
Yeah.
are witty, right?
Yeah.
They got to come back for you before you even start, right?
Yeah.
And then when it comes to their outer expression in the world, right? They're the go-tos. People go to them. Hey, can you tell me about this? Hey, I'm gonna try this. What do you think? Right?
Mm-hmm.
You know. So it doesn't. I'm not. I don't want to differentiate because women do have these qualities just like men do. But when we
Right.
talk about the embodiment of fire energy, right? The male vehicle, the male vessel can harness it and bring it to a level to where it's in its integral role.
Right.
Right.
Right. Indeed. Indeed. So yeah, I think we sliced that up pretty well.
Definitely.
Yeah, y'all make sure y'all share this with others and stuff like that. We seen it's growing and stuff like that, man. Especially with the switch, man. Speaking of that, y'all make sure y'all subscribe to all the other channels as well, man. Subscribe to Calipurusha. Subscribe to the First We Build podcast, Single Dad podcast, Ninth Lord Films. Subscribe to all of them because it's like I said, it is like a content family, man. We're all hitting these things from different angles and different things like that. So if you like this content, you're kind of swimming in this lane of thought, then we got you covered on all aspects or whatnot. So definitely make sure you do that or whatnot. But I think we sliced this up pretty well. So this episode was brought to you by Push It Forward Media Group, Calipurusha Astrology, and our good people over there on Patreon. Big up to y'all or whatnot. And this was episode 13. So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll be back next week with another great episode. All right. Peace.
Peace.